Morning, it's Friday, October 17th, 2025. This is the Dryden Public Broadband Committee meeting. This is the second of two monthly meetings. The first meeting is the look back at the previous month's business with the deck and the report. This meeting is more for open discussion, topics to operate the project, Q&A with the Broadband Committee, advice, all the things that the committee does to help support the project. Put together an agenda. I will adjust the screen so it's not tiny, perhaps. Okay. So first off is the mission of Dryden Fiber. Our mission is to provide reliable, affordable, high-speed, fiber-based internet access. We offer state-of-the-art technology and unmatched customer service. This has been the consistent mission for about a year and a half. Prior to that, it was very Dryden focused. However, since the award of initially $8.9 million and then later $11.6 million by New York State, we have taken the town of Dryden out of the mission and just changed it to fiber-based internet access, providing internet access independent of the specific municipality. This Public Broadband Committee is the Dryden Public Broadband Committee with a focus on supporting Dryden Fiber. As part of the intermunicipal agreement between Dryden and Caroline, we'll be expanding the size of this Public Broadband Committee from 7 people to 9 people, include 2 seats from Caroline. That's in the current IMA. We're going to be updating the IMA, but that will, once that is signed and we have the GDA signed with New York State, we'll be expanding this to include 2 seats from Caroline. One will be most likely the town supervisor, Mark Whitmer, and we're not sure who the town of Caroline will appoint as the second guest. So mission is really unfocused, and it's really right now focused on providing internet access. We are currently at about 31% of the town of Dryden with access. Much of that is in densely populated areas in the village of Dryden and the village of Freeville, where we are about 90% of the houses in the village of Dryden and close to 90% of the houses in the village of Freeville. The rest of the town is quite far behind if we're only at 30% total. However, our construction plans are to reach all those houses in the near future. All right, so with that, we're going to talk about the minutes from previous meetings. We have the map update, have a conversation about that. I sent that around earlier this week. Sienna, Calix, and Adtran, Brad's been working on some comparables to look at the different options. We had a request for different rates for nonprofit customers. Want to talk about that. I have a position outline for a Dryden Fiber sales position. So I want to look at that together. And then we talk about the expansion update, the MIP project, and then a few other things on construction, marketing, and account management. There's also time for Q&A or other topics. If there's anything that is not in this draft agenda, we can make those adjustments too. Let's just start with the bookkeeping part, which is the approval of the May 2025 minutes from May 2nd and May 16th. Has everyone had an opportunity to review those and any questions or edits?
I didn't have any.
It looked good to me.
Great. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes for both of those meetings?
I'll put forward a motion to approve the minutes. So
Thanks, Brad. Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks, Tony. Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Dan, Arthur? Todd? Okay. Awesome. All right, map update. I sent out the map earlier this week. Let's see if I can post it up here on the screen so we can look at it together. Has everyone had a chance to at least click on it and see the new map?
Yeah, I went through it pretty well, actually.
Good, good. Let me grab a link to it.
refill expansion doesn't quite go as far into the northwestern part of the town as I thought it did.
That, Tony, that's just kind of based on where those parcels will get service from.
Yeah.
That will come from the Pinckney pop.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, it makes sense that those would come from
Yeah.
Pick.
Okay. Drop this over here. All right, so this will be the first time that some of you see this. I'm going to talk about the key in the lower corner first, then we can zoom in. So green means service is available today. Those people in the green parcels can sign up for service. Installation time right now is roughly 3 days from when they sign up. So pretty quick. About a year ago, it was 2 weeks. So we've shortened that substantially. Some of that is just due to the flow is so low that when requests come in, we can get them on the calendar right away. Yellow is that Dryden expansion package that went out. Orange, it's in the town of Dryden, the Freeville expansion package, that's right. The second one is the rest of Dryden expansion in the orange parcels. Blue are all the Caroline parcels where we will be providing service. And then the purple is a new color we added for any MDUs or special consideration locations. Mostly mobile home parks, apartment buildings, and George Junior Republic, and a few other schools will be that color. So this key will be in the map integrated into the website. In addition, we'll put the same chart on the maps page in HTML. So if they don't see this chart, it'll also be at the top of the page.
So I did get a question from someone who lives in one of those yellow parcels right near McLean on Pruville Road, which is right on the border of the town.
Yes.
So he's in one of those yellow parcels right where you have it right now, going up Pruville. He had a neighbor across the street that was asking about dry fiber.
From Groton.
Yeah, technically they live in Groton, right? But they're on the other side of Pruville Road, right?
So the town has agreed that any parcels that are on shared roads where it doesn't require any additional engineering support,
Right.
then we can provide service to them. So if it's only a drop cable, either aerial or buried through their yard, we can provide them service. If it requires more than that, then it's actually becomes more of a construction project in the town of Groton, which means Groton would have to be owning that infrastructure the same way Caroline owns their infrastructure.
Cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. And but anyway, I just wanted you to know that the question did come up. So I think we will get some people on the other side of Pruville Road there that may want service. The other question I had is right there in McLean, there's 2 green parcels on the corner, but with yellow and like, how is that possible?
Service runs up Fall Creek and then into McLean to the post office and then south on Gulf Hill Road to reach these houses here. Sometime around when the pause was conducted in the end of February,
Yeah.
a device had been added up here at the corner of Perula Road and Fall Creek Road
Oh, okay. All right.
to provide service this direction. It can't really provide service to the park because it's too big. That needs special engineering. Technically, it could provide service right now to parts of McLean. I think there might even be enough ports over here to reach these houses. But because the map is very focused on Dryden and Caroline only, it doesn't
Right.
light up those parcels as being in the green.
But are those parcels in the bid?
The bid, no, nothing outside of Dryden is the bid.
Right.
And this was
Okay.
this has already been built in the Hunt era over a year ago.
And my question was about Cass Event, because I thought we were putting that in, considering that it was a Dryden school. And the school wanted to be all tied together in the same infrastructure. And if we've got things going right by it, we should put that in purple, I believe.
So yeah, the Cassavant Elementary School is in the Dryden Central School District. It's a very unique situation in that it is not located in the town of Dryden. I mean, it's across the street, but it's not in the town of Dryden. Following our rule of only having parcels shaded in that are in the town of Dryden, it wouldn't be colored in, even if we could provide them service, the same way we could provide service on School Street and Gulf Hill Road in Groton. That doesn't mean we can't make it shaded in. It just means it isn't right now. It's
Right.
probably a bit of a perception challenge for the project to say, hey, you're in the yellow, you're in the orange, but we have this pocket of green in McLean outside of Dryden. Like if you had lived in McLean and Groton, you would have service already, but you live in Dryden, you don't have service. So there's a little bit of that perception that we have used to keep the focus inside the town. That being said, we had outsourced the relationship to talk to the school district, to Gleeman, and I don't have a status of the last time they talked and what's the holdup. At one point, I know it was they don't want to work with us until we can provide service to every single building in the district. I'd say a couple things. One, Brad, for the audit, we should find out from the audit if there are ports available on School Street and Gulf Hill Road, just so we know, like, if we did want to shade this in, which of these parcels would we shade in? Because there are parcels here. They're not even clickable the way we have this set up.
Right.
This is very Dryden. So that'd be one question for Brad for the audit is, do we have ports available? Are there already MPTs up there? The second is there enough fiber in the existing port here where these green parcels are to service the school? And we actually don't know what their demands are for service yet. And then probably the thing that would be on my to-do list is reach out to them and say, we now have service. We can provide service to Cassavant and the Freeville Elementary and the Dryden Elementary and the Dryden High School and the Dryden Bus Garage back here. Do you have other parcels that also need service? And if we have all 5 of those, do you want service? So we can add that to the queue of the account management part of the job to reach out to them.
Yeah, and we should also, I noticed the school in Dryden wasn't colored in at all, so I would say we'd put that as a purple, but
Yeah, Graham gave me some good feedback. Like this elementary school in Dryden more than likely has service since everything around it does have
oh,
service.
he's now got it purple. So yeah.
I mean, the building's purple. The other elementary school in Freeville is green, so there's no difference. Like they don't have service different than the one in the village of Dryden. Cassavant, not in the town of Dryden. And then the high school is completely green on the map. So it should at least be consistent if we can consistently bring it to all of them. But ultimately, we have to find out who within the school district makes this decision and can help us on the technical side as well as the approval and the billing side. All right. So other than the schools and McLean, other feedback on where we are with the map?
Well, I noticed the apartment complex across from the school is all green. Do we have any customers in there? Is that something that needs special engineering?
We do not have any customers there. Spectrum has built out coax to every single unit, as well as the underground facilities to get to each unit. And when we asked them if we could provide service to these buildings, to these units, all these apartments, they said, we're all set. We already have Spectrum to every unit.
Okay.
So it's green in that we could provide them service if they requested it. We could find a way to bring it to them. There's not an ongoing conversation with them about how to do that because they've basically rejected
Right.
us. Now, what's a little weird is that a couple of these buildings, I think on the eastern side, on Keats Way, were listed as unserved or underserved uh, by the state, even though the entire area of Poets Landing is served by Spectrum.
Interesting.
Yeah. There was a grant opportunity where New York State would pay for the wiring or rewiring of the buildings to bring in either glass, fiber, drop cables, or Cat 5, Cat 6 to each unit. But that only was funded by the state if the property owner agreed that they wanted to have that done. And as of the last communication with them, which is, gosh, almost a year ago, they were like, we don't want to do that. Even if we're not paying for it, we don't want to do it.
Who's paying the bill for each spectrum? Is it each person in the house, or do they have some sort of large?
I don't know if it's like the INHS project in Varna, then there's a bulk rate fee that the housing development pays to Spectrum for service to all locations. And if the individual wants an increased level of service, then they can spend more of their own money to have an increased service, but the baseline is included from the property owner to the tenant.
So,
Brad, one, go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, just to kind of, I know Tony asked the question about the adjacent property. Um, just so the committee's aware, we are accounting for in the design, all those properties that are adjacent to it. So if and when they do sign up for service and we have the bandwidth to get them hooked up, in terms of crews, we've got Dryden taken care of, et cetera, there will be service available for them, so you can capitalize on that revenue opportunity.
That's this Poet Landing across from the high school.
No, I was talking about the adjacent towns like
Oh,
Groton,
Mhm.
et cetera.
okay. Yeah. Yeah, as you move around town, there's not a lot of development on border roads, except over here on Schofield. There's a lot of construction, a lot of units here on the Lansing side of Schofield. Some of these are single family homes, but back here, these are multi-unit apartment buildings. So we're going to be building this to have enough service to reach all these apartments. I think the same thing is true on Sapsucker. So if you keep following this directly south past the airport, we need to service to these locations up with the Lab of Ornithology
Mhm.
for MIP. We're going to be running the fiber Hanshaw to Sapsucker in north. While we go up here, we can hit Cardinal Drive and Meadowlark, but we can also service the Sapsucker Woods Road addresses in the town of Lansing, or in the town of Ithaca. However, we cannot build up to Sanctuary Drive because this will be a more of an infrastructure project, not a drop cable project.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I described it to this person that asked me about Fruitville Road too, is that, yeah, we wouldn't build like if there was a situation like that, we wouldn't build up the road.
Yeah.
But we could
I
hit it
believe
with
there will
drop.
be when we put the MPTs on the poles going up Sapsucker, there will be enough service to reach all the houses on both sides. Brad, I wonder why this house is not shaded in. Oh, no home. It says no homes or structures appear on this property. 5 Cardinal Drive. Should flag that one.
Let me look on Google Earth quick.
Cool. All right. Other thoughts, edits to the map?
There was only the other one on Lower Creek Road there, but
Yeah, this
and
is
that was because Westerling owns both of them, you said, so
yeah, so 48
Oh.
Lower Creek Road is a single family home.
140.
It has its own address. It's across the street from 79 Lower Creek Road, which is a mobile home park called Fall Creek Park. However, when you click on the Fall Creek Park parcel, the entire parcel plus the one across the street lights up as a single unit in the GIS software. This is not uncommon. I could probably find at least a dozen of these where there are either large parcels or parcels that jump over streets. But like the legal parcel in the GIS software is that this is all one single parcel. I don't know if the GIS software has the ability to split parcels that are defined the way this one is into two separate parcels.
We can
Brad,
talk to Evan about that.
yeah, it's 48 Lower Creek Road and 79 Lower Creek Road. I mean, in an ideal world, it's two separate parcels.
Yeah, I think I put 40 in my email. I misread the.
I mean, if you zoom out far enough, 40 covers that parcel in a way that looks like it's 40.
Okay, that's why. Okay.
'Cause I was like, I think we talked about it being 48 on the phone, but when you look at it, depending on how you look at it, it looks like it could be 40. Also, the font's pretty good, but it can also look like a 40. Looks like Eric from Clarity has his hand raised. Eric?
Yeah, isn't that property owned by the same person? I think that's
Yeah,
why
he owns the same property.
Yeah, okay.
But
Just making sure.
he owns this property too, and he owns this one. I think he owns one across the street. He owns a bunch of these. It's just for some reason legally, or however it's set up, the GIS software holds these two as a single property.
That's weird.
Which it's like I said, it's weird. It's not all that uncommon. There's one over here. This is at the intersection of Dryden Road, 366, and Turkey Hill Road. We can provide service to 1102 from behind from the rail trail. But if the parcel extends across the street into the other side of the state highway, all the way up between these two parcels where there are houses. So for a while, this parcel was green and everything on the north side was green, but we couldn't service 1113, 1121. I don't know why it's done like this. It's just GIS takes the data and says this is the parcel. It's both sides of the road. I don't think this even has it doesn't have an independent odd number, even though it's on the odd side of the street. It's all considered 1102, even though 1102 is on the north side. So these appear throughout town with these parcels, sometimes quite large, that jump over roads and can add confusion to what the map looks like. So Brad, there was one other question that came in, I think it was probably also from Graham, which is orange, mustard, dark yellow, whatever color we use, is all in the second bid that's going to go out after the Freeville bid, which is now out and being operated. Some of the orange is MIP funded. It has to be done by the end of next year. Like maybe half. And some of it is non-MIP funded. But the way that MIP works is you're moving your way through town to reach the unserved and underserved, which means you're passing all over the place. Like it's not quite like a spotted leopard, but if we just look at the existing current map that does show the MIP parts, let me bring that up on this map. This is the current map that shows this. A bit more refinement to everything that's now in orange is these are the MIP parcels, which is which overlaps
can
in this version.
open to brainstorming if and how you want to identify that on the new map, perhaps. You'll notice those orange routes, like Dave said, are MIP, and quote unquote funded routes. There are parcels kind of in the northwest quadrant that are MIP locations, but are those bead locations as well, Dave?
So yeah, the reason why this map doesn't have orange basically going above Route 13 is because of the Hunt engineering
Right.
optimism in June of 2024 that everything in blue and yellow would be done by June of 2025. And therefore, even though there are a lot of MIP addresses in the yellow and blue, they would all be covered 18 months before the deadline. So we don't need to have those as a separate shade.
Yep.
Now, as it turned out, their optimism was not founded in reality, nor their engineering. So a lot of the blue and yellow here is MIP addresses,
Mhm.
but it's not specified in this map.
So my point was, we're putting that out to bid. They have 45 days, business days, and then they've got another 90 days or whatever. So depending when that can get out to bid, we should be able to give a better timeline than 2026, or at least move that back. Because there's people like on Upper Creek Road and Etna Road and stuff that we've said we sort of give service to a while back, and we just haven't hit it. And so it looks, I think the perception I find is that, oh, if we're just going to say 2026, or maybe add a month or a day, something to it. But if we're going to go out and bid all that, it should be done, but per the bid. So they should be all green when that bid is complete. Is that not? At least that's my understanding of how things are working.
Yes, when the Freeville expansion, these yellow pieces are done, which would be it's from the time the bid is awarded, we have 45 business days to begin construction. So that's 9 weeks. Then once they start, they have 60 business days, which is 12 weeks to complete the construction. And we're estimating that construction will begin around November 1st. So 60 business days from then would be about 20 days in November, 20 in December, 20 in January. But due to the holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we're estimating that by mid-February, everything in yellow would be reached, serviced, and spliced in. So rounding to the next nearest month would be March 1st, which is why the map that says Q1. The
Right.
orange parcel, I think, is also a 45-day from award to commencement, but instead of being 60 days, I think it's 180 days, Brad. It's a lot much longer.
I think it's 120.
I think it's 120 business days. So that's 24 weeks from when it starts, which is basically like 6 months. So if that bid goes out this month, gets awarded in November, they do the pre-planning in December, and they start, say, January 1st, 120 business days would bring us to around June 30th for everything in the orange. And as if you're paying attention, that means there's 2 months of overlap, January and February, where we're working on the yellow section and the orange section for construction. Third, the blue section is Caroline, and this will also be getting bid out, awarded in November, potentially planned in December, and also start in January. I think that's also 120 days. That might be 150 days.
Yeah, I think that one might be the 150-day contract.
So that's about 30 weeks time. So if that also starts January 1st or February 1st, and we have to do it for 30 weeks. That brings us right to around September 1st for the blue. If everything goes right and we get everything bid out, designed, all the permitting is done, all the electrical make ready is done.
We're getting to the point where not a whole lot of wiggle room should something delay something.
Yeah, I mean that this would finish yellow by March 1st, orange by July 1st, blue by September 1st. Then we still have September, October, November, December, 4 more months of the buffer, which is not very much time. That goes by in a blink. You're right. So that's the big timeline. Now, there could be some decisions made in the orange zone in those 120 days to say prioritize the MIP areas because those have to be done by the end of the year. Now, the challenge of that is when they're doing some of these runs, like Turkey Hill Road to Ellis Hollow Road, you're already here to like stop and go this direction, and then stop and go this direction, stop and go this direction, and like not cover Jung Circle, not cover Quarry or Snyder Hill or Ellis Hollow. It means sending the same vehicles back there to go in those directions later. So, I mean, Brad can correct me, but I imagine that there'll be some really close collaboration with Syracuse Utilities if they are the winner of the bid for this piece to map out road by road, week by week, day by day to service all 100 and all orange parcels in 120 days. Like, what does that actually look like?
So do we have lots of engineering to do still on like on the orange portion or not? I don't, that's what I want to understand. I guess.
Not a ton. Graham, it's mostly all fielded, which means we kind of know what the physical infrastructure piece is going to look like as the Clarity Light audit data continues to come in, which they've buttoned up Freeville and have kind of started moving southward. That last piece of the puzzle of, okay, what buffer tubes are available where, so we can circuit it, so to speak, is kind of largely what remains for engineering.
Okay. Can the bid go out before that engineering's complete or not? Because don't you need their
It can. It gets a little bit uncomfortable, and that's kind of the situation we find ourselves with Freeville is we didn't have that Clarity Light data before we bid it out, so that tends to burn more of our 45-day window, right? And that's kind of what we're experiencing right now. So ideally, it would be ready before we go to bid, but it is an option to bid it out before that.
And so what's the projection of having the Clarity get back to you? And I mean, what's that timeline looking like?
They've made really good progress in what have they been working 2 to 3 weeks, Dave? Most of your network and service is kind of up in that Freeville area. They gave us an original timeline of 4 to 5 weeks, so I'd expect the next 2 to 3 we're going to be seeing almost all the data we need.
And so what's the projection for the bid going out? Is that like 11/15 then?
I think that sounds fair. We want to get it bid out in November so that we have plenty of time to go through the 15-day bid process, get it awarded, get contractor under agreement, and start that clock and get them to work as soon as we can, right? And the other thing in parallel here that we've got to keep our finger on the pulse of is how Electric Make Ready is doing, which they're making good progress. And just as a side note for the group here is we are running into some issues with getting transformers being readily available from NYSEG. I know we talked about transformer earlier, but nonetheless, that they were having some issues, HRS, with transformer availability in the yard, the NYSEG yard. So we've escalated that appropriately, but and that doesn't halt their work. They are able to go do, other secondary moves, etc. But it does prevent specific make-ready packages from being deemed quote-unquote complete and conditionally licensed for us to attach. They have to have that whole work package done for us to be conditionally licensed to attach.
Oh, okay.
There is an endless amount of things that happen during electrical make ready that we just could not plan for. What was the one this morning that came through? It was like a special order, a change order. I think, oh, they had to use a rock drill machine because where they were bringing in doing the electrical make ready, rock holes needed to be drilled to get the job done.
We also had a beaver dam issue.
Yeah, that was earlier this week. I think early last week. They were in Midline Road somewhere at pole number 100. That's in a span that the pole was put in a field, but since then beavers have dammed up the creek near that field and flooded the field. So now that pole is sitting in water. They tried driving in with a vehicle and it started to sink in the mud. So they're assessing with NYSEG about how to cross that span. I don't know if that was a pole replacement or just moves.
I think that was just moves, but it's gonna be, their suggested remedy was 2 mid-span poles on either side to get us clearance. So, that has to go back through NYSEG as well.
Yeah, I mean that. I don't know what the New York State law is on beaver dams removal. I don't think we want to get involved with that.
You got the DEC involved, so
The other one was this transformer question, which this project is, I don't want to use the word forcing, but it's requiring NYSEG to upgrade infrastructure. A lot of new utility poles, some of them they're paying for the replacement, or we're splitting the cost. And I think the attitude was if we're going to be doing this, once every 3 or 4 decades pole replacement, we may as well increase the transformer size. So I think the default was like 10 and now it's 25, where that's like a new request in the last 6 months. So everything in Richardson's plans for electrical make ready was replace what they have with what they either already have or just bring in 10s. And they're like, no, the new plan is to replace those with 25s because people want more power now and we don't want to go back there next year or in 2 years. And that's what's caused this. Oh, great. Now that the requirement is to upgrade to 25s, we don't have any in the yard to put on these poles. So we couldn't have predicted that. But it does make sense that if they're going to be doing this work, they may as well upgrade while they're at it.
Yeah, and so as part of that, there is both billable and non-billable electric make-ready work. Bulk of what we're seeing is non-billable to Dryden, and that's because there's either pre-existing conditions or something on the pole that NYSEG probably should have corrected already, so to speak. So there's 2 aspects to that as well.
I think what we saw is a very small scale Dryden, maybe it was permit 13, which is Etna Road, part of Hanshaw, maybe part of Nemai in Sheldon. It's like 110 poles. I think 45 of the poles had to be replaced. I'm not using that 45% projection for all poles in the whole project. But for this particular permit, it was a lot of pole replacements, a lot of old poles that have been there a very long time. And they're not tall enough to provide room for the service we need. So I think when it comes to the map, we could do 2 shades of orange, one for MIP shade done by 12/31/26, another one for non-MIP shade that would be done not required to be done by 12/31/26. Um, However, the current plan is that all the orange would be done before 12/31/26. So we could be more specific,
Well,
but it would just make it might make it more confusing.
my feeling from the looking at the bid stuff, it's the time is actually earlier than that. It's the third quarter of, so, and I
Yeah.
would hope we would have that all done. We should. I mean, I guess there's,
I'll say the same thing I've been saying
so,
since July when we started talking about bidding this out instead of doing the old process of just giving maps to Syracuse, then giving design splicing information to Lightspeed, which is we have to try this, bid this out, award this, commence the construction, and see how they go. We should know with a 60-day construction for the yellow zone in this bid, we should know in the first month, in the first 20 days, are they making the progress we expect them to make in 20 days?
mhm.
In 30 days, halfway through, has a majority of it, has over 50% of it been hung on these lines? So that way they have enough time to do all the splicing in that 60-day time period. Uh, we haven't given the contractors the ability to perform to a timeline ever in the project. So if commencement of the yellow zone construction starts November 1st, by the time we have this meeting in mid-December, we should know pretty well, like, right, we're making progress. They're updating us every day. We're updating ourselves every week on where we are with the project. We should be able to see the progress and say, wow, we are on schedule. We're way behind. We're a little ahead. And then use that to project orange and blue zones. I'll just say that one more time. This will be the first time in this project where there's a bid awarded to a project construction company with not just a budget to do the work, but a timeline to complete it by. That has not been done to date since inception of the project.
Yeah, but they're used to having timelines and delivery, I suspect. But
Yes, it wasn't
yeah.
like it was a hard push to say, bid on this is the timeline. I would almost say they welcome that. Like this, that's how we do it. Like
Yeah.
having the construction company and the splicing company waiting for the engineering company to provide them the instructions for the next mile is a very inefficient way to build this. Which is why we're not doing that anymore. All right, so that's the
So,
second item on the agenda. Anything else on the map?
yeah,
Well,
so I would like to leave it one color, but maybe accelerate when we say it's done. But if we can't do that, leaving the vague, 26 is okay. So I guess so. Or put fourth quarter of that or something would be.
it'll
Mm.
trickle out the same way the existing construction has been, which is
Mhm.
even though we're bidding this whole thing as one bid, as regions within the package are spliced and tested, and we get houses, groups of 50 or 100 or 200 houses, depending on the neighborhood, we'll let them loose for the customer base who's signed up. Probably a concern that we have in Caroline is we have in Dryden, just at a different scale. We have to do 300 installs at Caroline by the end of next year, 272 installs funded by the state. We currently only have 90 people signed up in Caroline. So there's a lot of people who haven't signed up that we need to have signed up so we can do the installs on time. In Dryden, we have almost 600 people who've signed up who are not in the green zone. However, uh, that number should be a lot higher. There's like 6,000 parcels and only, I don't know, 1,000 have signed up. So 1 out of 6 parcels is signed up for service. If our queue had another 1,000 people who were in the wait list, as soon as they turn green, we can set an integrity to call them and get them scheduled for installs. So encouraging people, like, it is coming, please be patient. But as soon as your road is green, like a Hanford Drive, we can get all the installs done in like 2 days.
So I didn't realize that we actually had to deliver the service to the people. I thought it had to be outside their house,
So
whether
the
they sign
state
up
is
for it or not.
the
So,
state is funding us for 400 installations.
oh, so we want to pick up on those installations. If
Yeah, we want to make
can.
sure that we
Yeah,
spend
yeah,
that money.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. If we don't get those 400 installs done by the end of next year, within the list of 2,700
Okay.
state locations, we can't get reimbursed for those installs.
Yep. Okay, I get where you're coming.
So one other statement on this, I expanded the purple from special provisions required to this property requires additional technical support to provide service to the buildings. Once service is available for installations, the parcel will be shaded green. To give a little bit more definition behind the purple parcels.
Thank you, Dave. That's way better wording than I had. So
Cool. Brad has to jump at 11:30 for another meeting on Dryden Fiber. Do you have 5-6 minutes, Brad, on Sienna, Calix, and Atran?
Yeah, I can be real brief on that. We do have quotes in from both Calix and Adtran, working through analyzing those. There were a couple follow-up questions. I can tell you I went through that exercise with Calix yesterday, scheduled to do so with Adtran early next week. Anecdotally, obviously, as I work through the process here, I'm just trying to make sure things are apples to apples, but it appears that Calix is a little bit less expensive option, if you will, and would fit our budget a little bit better. But again, I haven't sat down with Adtran and had the chance to, go line by line through their proposal and make sure we're comparing apples to apples. So that's kind of where it sits. I expect I'll have that delivered to Dave sometime next week. I gave him kind of the initial analysis again that feels a little bit like apples to oranges. So that's why I'm doing a little bit further investigation. But currently, Calix is a little bit cheaper.
and does one have a better MDU solution, or is it
They're
just different?
both those two are pretty similar. I wouldn't say either one has a better MDU solution than the other.
You aren't making it easy, Brad.
All right. Thanks, Brad. Let me go back to my screen so you can see what we're looking at. All right, different rates for nonprofit customers. I sent an email out earlier this week. It says the name of the organization. The treasurer for the nonprofit. I'm asking if you have the special rates for nonprofits. So I responded, at this time we don't have any special rates, but we do have simple flat rate, no surprises, no additional fees added on. It's really clear. They said that's great. They asked if they would pay the business rate. They don't have any employees. I think I said we don't have a way to police this. Sign up for whatever service you need that's going to help your organization. If you need a static IP address, you should sign up for the business rate. So discussion topics. Should we offer a nonprofit rate? What is Spectrum or Frontier offering? Should we make sure they're not paying sales taxes? And then if we're going to be pursuing different rates, should the contractors also provide a lower rate as part of a donation? That's kind of some of the initial feedback conversations on this. I just like as a sense of the Public Broadband Committee, what are your thoughts on this request or this idea of different rates for nonprofits, knowing that Dryden Fiber itself is a nonprofit customer of Dryden Fiber. Town of Dryden is a business, like the school district, George Junior Republic, TC3, these are all nonprofits, as well as this historical society that has no employees. So the capacity to pay for this may or may not have direct relationship to it being a nonprofit.
Good point.
We'll start with Dan, who has his hand raised.
Yeah, I like the sentiment behind this, but I think creates a sort of one size fits all situation where there are nonprofit institutions, educational institutions come to mind that do have the resources to pay for the services that they're receiving, and we start making exceptions, we're going to make a lot of them. Other groups may come forward with their status and why they need a reduced rate. And it'll become an administrative challenge, I think.
Yeah,
feedback.
I guess the only thing I kind of agree. I think our rates are low enough that we don't need to lower them even more. The only thing I would say is if we took the tax component out of it, that would be the only bit we do. If you're going to go lower than that or try and get something off the install where like Clarity could write off it as a piece of donation, basically, that would be helpful. But these things to coordinate are very difficult. So, and then you'd have to collect the proof that they really are a nonprofit, and then it's overhead I think we just really can't handle very easily.
And I should have added, our price is already lower than anything out there. So we're saving them money just by being.
That seemed to be the response from the Dryden Town Historical Society. It was like, great. Should I do business or residential? Like, I think they were like, okay. They didn't. There was not a big pushback from their response. It was just a question of
more than the commercial alternatives. Yeah, we could come in at a lower price point to cut them a break and save them money, but we are saving them money just by what we offer.
The other thing that I heard from a business, actually another nonprofit who is a customer, is there's a little bit of a savings to a lot of a savings. Customer service is great, but ultimately the uptime is their biggest feature. They're like, we have been using the local cable provider, and I don't know, hey, this is what they said. I don't know if they've been upgrading their network in our neighborhood, but we have outages and alerts of outages almost every night. And as a business customer, like we can't have services being knocked off repeatedly. We're not doing network updates daily that would cause alerts to say you might lose your connection daily. Like cheaper, it's local, keep the money local. Ultimately, the best reason where this is not even the customer support, it's that your service is up and operates.
Yeah.
So the current nonprofits are on business tiers?
I think we only have a handful, but I do believe like the Village of Dryden, the Village of Freeville, which has two accounts, one for their office, one for their wastewater treatment plant. Town of Dryden. I think they're all on the business tier.
Because I guess thinking through this, like I agree with the sentiment that, probably not worth creating a different route for nonprofits since it's already such a low cost, but I could maybe see, giving them business services at the residential cost.
Or not even business services, just kind of not looking the other way, but kind of allowing them to get residential service even though they're a business. Because then we don't have to worry about other rates, right? It's the same, it's all rates that we're currently doing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I mean, I've had to deal with Comcast with this and down in DC when we were delivering, getting services from them, and they would cut a break on the taxes basically, but
Right.
we had to file a lot of paperwork for that. But really, their rates were not.
Their rates and Frontier
Weren't
and
they
Spectrum,
wouldn't
I
even
think,
get competitive there. So,
I think they do the same stuff.
Amanda's not in this week. She'll be back on Monday. I can confirm with her if and how we deal with any sales tax on the service. Either we don't charge sales tax or we do and it's rolled into the monthly rates. But let me find that out. The other fees that are kind of hidden fees that show up on your bill are like the FCC fee. Twice a year, we have to report to FCC about the entire network. It costs us a dollar amount per customer. We just include that as part of the cost of doing business. We know that our competitors will charge the FCC fee monthly to every customer as like an ongoing expense. It's not rolled into the base cost.
yeah, and I much prefer what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, it's clear, easy, and I think we should continue to do that. If so.
That seems to be the response so far from the customer base. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to be paying. There's no surprise. So I have a few questions, or at least this question about taxes. It feels like we're not going to do it, as of today, we're not going to do anything about offering or recommending a nonprofit status. That we have very competitive pricing, and we do have one other thing we could talk about, which is in our services, we list an enterprise tier, customized offerings available, contact us at your request. This is a tier that we actually had, I think it was here before I started, with the intention of using this tier to service TC3.
Yeah, the schools and how much bandwidth and how much engineering, how much equipment, it's yeah, or even potentially MDUs where they, depending how they're splitting it up. I mean, so it gives you the latitude to make sure we're getting compensated well enough for those things, or
Exactly. Okay. All right, the next one is a Dryden Fiber sales position. This meeting is set to go to 11, no, to noon, right? We have full 90 minutes. So we have around 1,300 households in the green zone that have not yet signed up for service. That includes some more densely populated areas, but also some areas that are a bit more spread out. We've talked about this for a few months internally about hiring someone to go door to door just to make sure people know that we have service. We believe almost everyone has received at least one, if not two, postcards in the mail. They may or may not have seen articles in the paper, social media posts, signs in yards, our participation in the Dairy Day Parade. So there may still be, even with all that, new people who've moved in the last 2 years who didn't realize that we had service available. So this position would be subcontractor, temporary, at 10 hours per week to go door to door. Now, the structure of this is a commissioned plus hourly comp, and then a few other items as part of this package, which would be print materials. So they have door hangers to put on doors, a space where they can write their name, like call Dave, I'm your salesperson, I'll get you hooked up. Business cards, some combination of apparel of shirts, jackets, hats, hoodies. So they are branded Dryden Fiber. For transportation, they use their own vehicle. We provide them with a truck magnet or car magnet for each side of the car. And then mileage would be standard mileage within the town of Dryden. If they live in Dryden, then we pay them mileage in Dryden. If they live in Syracuse and drive down for this job, we pay them for while they're in Dryden. We're not going to give them mileage to drive from Syracuse to Dryden.
That's good.
So this commission is 2 months of service fees as a starting point. And I put the details on the next page of what this looks like. So most of our customers, like 80%, are in this gold tier, $45 a month. The commission, if they sign someone at that tier, would be $90. Now, we're going to give them $90 for signing one customer. That may or may not seem like a lot. The revenue from that customer in 5 years is $2,700, or $90 of that is 3.3% of the revenue over 5 years. So yes, it pays for itself after the first 2 months. The next, 58 months, we're not paying for the commission. In total, it's 3.3%. If that customer stays on for 10 years, I tend not to project things on sales and comp for 10 years, but if we did, it's obviously half of that, 1.6% of the revenue would be the cost of the commission. And obviously that's going to be consistent at the 2x monthly commission. If they sign up an enhanced business tier, they get a $500 commission on that. Now we get $15,000 in revenue over 5 years, and the rate is still 3% of the cost of that revenue for the commission.
This doesn't include installation costs or that kind of thing. That would all have
No,
to be
this is
yeah.
completely independent of that. Yep. So I thought maybe it would be good to look at the potential cost for just the first 4 months. So if they worked for 1 month and they worked 40 hours, we would pay them $880 in hourly at $22 an hour. If they sign up 10 customers at $50 per customer, it doesn't really matter what the customers pick, but say they on average pick gold, then there would be $900 in commissions. So at the end of the month, we'd have 10 new customers and we would have spent $1,780. So about $178 per customer to acquire them. The next month, they work the same number of hours, but they're a bit more efficient. Now they've added 15 more customers, or 25 total. Then they're even more effective the next month, up to 45 customers, adding 20 new customers in that month, and 30 new customers in the 4th month. And you see the cost per customer drives down to $136 per customer. In total, this would be a 75 customer gain to the project for 10 grand.
Dave, hours would be capped, right? No more than 10 hours a week.
Either no more than 10 hours per week or no more than 40 hours per month. It's
Right.
probably not going to be very difficult, given that the best hours to do this would be after work, 4 to 7, when it's light out.
Sure.
For the
And they
summer.
may, because of the incentive, they may work more than 10 hours a week.
They might, because the other days to work would be Saturdays. Like generally, like Saturday, Sunday, not that great, as some of you know from going door to door for whatever campaigning you're doing. Saturdays is a little better than Sundays. There would be people home on
Yeah.
Sundays, but the hourly rate would be 10 hours a week. Use them how you want. Maybe 7 of those hours are Saturday, and 3 of them are throughout the week after work. Though with
But I would
working from
be
home,
clear
you might catch people at
Yeah.
home during the day.
But in the
Yeah.
hiring or the interviewing, just you say we'll have a 10-hour a week cap on the hourly pay. But if you feel the incentive to earn more commissions, that's up to you.
We could do that, or we could just say it's a 40 hour per month.
Either, right, either
Yeah.
or,
I think the side version of that would be, do I have it in here? TBD on number of hours without a sale. So 40 hours at $22 an hour is $880. If they spent a whole month and they don't get a single sale, do we continue with them? So I don't know that number. I don't know if it's like 2 months. If you go out there and you spend 80 hours of time and you don't get any sales, that's going to tell us something about you or about our customer base.
Yeah. Right.
But maybe that's written like, do your best. We're tracking this. This doesn't go on for 5 years. Like there's a probationary period where you're out there trying, and after the first 40 hours of work, the first month, we're expecting to get 10 sales. If you don't get any, we'll assess that. We'll know that you didn't get any. But after the second month, if you still don't have any sales, that's probably a good sign that this is not a good method for us to be spending money on. We'll be out around $1,700, but we'll have learned something about that salesperson or the customer base.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty low bar. I mean, we're not going to hire somebody who's never done sales, or at least doesn't show promise. I mean, you've done sales and I've done sales, and it takes a certain style of person, and it's not for everybody. So I think it's safe to assume they'll get a sale, unless we didn't hire properly.
That's right.
What about our liabilities of, their vehicle or something
We can work
happens
with
to them, or
we can
what
work with our
problem is?
we can work with our law firm to make sure that the job description and the agreement handles all the liabilities, insurance, whatever, as a subcontractor of the project.
And we should probably have, I mean, the vehicle needs to sort of get assessed. I don't think we want something that looks like it's falling apart to be used, or, the muffler missing, or, that kind of thing. So, because I don't know how you work that in there, but I would be concerned if somebody showed up in a,
In my rusty Prius.
yeah, and you're right.
Uh,
or there's an image thing we got to be careful of here. So that's all I'm saying. So, and I would say as a hoodie, I would be not so enamored with that. I would go with a jacket or something if you're going to do that kind of thing. So, but that might be yeah.
Jacket or
I mean, it
vest
looks a
or
little more
something.
professional rather than
Yeah.
because they aren't actually an installer. So, yeah.
yeah. A hoodie.
A nice flannel. That's what we need. A purple flannel. So
We have all these blue things. We could find a blue flannel.
blue flannel. Blue flannel. Yeah, that'd be better.
No.
Cowboy hats, hard hats, clipboards. I mean, if it was summer, I would say a polo shirt is probably fine. But given that it's now 27 degrees in the morning,
What about a fleece vest?
Oh,
Can't go
I
wrong
like
with
that. Yeah.
instead of a jacket.
we can try. We can see what the pricing is on these. Cool. Let me put this together. Dan, so you're the board member on the committee. What's the next step? Does this go back to Broadband Committee with like, here's a much more refined version of this job? Does it go to the town board to say, we'd like to do this, we need your approval, and we have been given a recommendation to do this from the Public Broadband Committee? What do you think is the best next step?
We do that, and then we petition the county to add it as a job position.
Oh, as a subcontractor, it has to go through civil service?
Well, you're right. You said subcontractor. Sorry, I missed. That didn't register. No, I think we can skip that step then.
Okay. So I'll draft this up as a job description with this outline behind it. Send it to the Broadband Committee for just review, approval, and then get it onto the next town board meeting agenda for their like, yes, move forward with this. Okay.
When would you like this position to start?
this weekend.
Okay, all right.
Dave wants his sales numbers up.
I have to believe at this point there are a lot of people who don't know that we have service available to them.
Yep.
Like,
I
and one
agree
thing that
with that.
I think one thing we talk about is like, is the term green zone effective? Like, is there another term for like, it's available now where you live? You live in this place, you live in a part of town where we can provide service. We use shorthand green zone because that's what was the color of the map, but perhaps there's another term that you as consumers of the product might use to say it's available to you where you happen to live in town, not to everyone in town, but where you live, it is available. Okay. We've got about 15 minutes left. Freeville expansion update. We talked quite a bit through that with Brad on the map. Municipal infrastructure project program update. The first reimbursement request, we're aiming to have that go out on November 15th. And that will be for about 2 million. Then there'll be 3 more tranches requested over the next 15 months. Construction, no change. The Caroline construction of the central office has been awarded. The groundbreaking is planned for October 27th. So in about 10 days on Monday, October 27th, from 12:30 to 2 p.m. on that Monday afternoon, we have invited the governor of New York to attend. There will be people from the Connect All office who are running this project at New York State, from Empire State Development here for the groundbreaking. We've also invited the media as well as other dignitaries to attend. There'll be some speeches from the town supervisors, the governor if she can attend, and then bring your own shovel so we can break ground in Caroline. I'll send out the invite, if I haven't already, to the Public Broadband Committee and the operations team. I think that is everything that's kind of new. Poll permits, we talked about that. Marketing, refer a friend is out there. We have a few people who are using that to fill it in. We haven't had those people sign up and get the service yet or get installed yet, but we're working our way through those marketing items. That's all. So we're a little early. Any questions or any other topics we should cover while we are together?
Yeah, the MDU approach and how we're doing, we've got some feedback that it wasn't particularly, that some maybe potential that follow-up wasn't done very well. So how are we going to fix that problem? And also get the engineering done. I know we had somebody in Brad's group was doing the engineering. We had a whole list of them projects.
So there has been a positive change in that a team member from Vantage, Veronica Voller, is the project manager for MDUs and all these purple locations on the map. She has direct outreach to a lot of these property owners or the management companies behind the property owners or in front of the property owners, as well as the engineering resources to go in and figure out how we're going to provide service to those locations. The queue is pretty deep, as Graham mentioned. It's about 20 different locations where we have to figure out how we're going to provide them service. So far, we haven't seen a single one-size-fits-all solution. We have apartment buildings, we have mobile home parks, then we have some business addresses that need special engineering to provide them service, like George Jr. For the apartment buildings, some of them are already wired with coax, some have CAT, have Ethernet, some of them don't, some of them only have one or the other, some are brand new construction. For some of those, there are utility rooms where we can plug in and wire from there. Some of them don't have utility rooms. Some of them do have conduit around their campus if it's multiple buildings that we can use to run lines. Some of them don't. They'll require digging. So for each of these, we have to figure out a few things. One is there enough fiber at the street to provide them service? Okay, if there's not, how do we make sure there's enough fiber on the street to get them service? Once that's answered, how do we get it from the street to their building, to the utility room, or to wherever we're going to get it for the mobile home parks? Then how do we get it from utility room to the individual apartments inside? And all three of these questions kind of go back to the first question, which is how much fiber do we have? How much light is available? Which we didn't know until this clarity audit was conducted. Now that that's done, we can go through and figure out individually for each of these projects, how do we get it from the street to the facility, to the apartment building? And then how do we get it to each individual apartment? It's a challenging part of the project that I don't think any of us were really aware of how deep it was and how widespread. There are many, many, many units across town that require some specialized engineering to bring service in. And we're working our way through that queue. Now, on the communication with the customer base, when people request service, there are many paths they go on. If they're in the green zone, we can provide them service, we get them installed right away. If they're in a green zone with a simple rental unit, like a single family home or a duplex, where we can provide service to the exterior, we can install them right away. If we don't have a signed agreement, we have to get that agreement signed, and then we can do the install to their house. Those are kind of the easy ones. For the MDUs, where we have to provide engineering services, we need to be introduced to the property owner to get them to sign off, and then we have to schedule time to go there, assess the property with an engineer, and determine how we're going to bring the service. Then make a plan, and then bring that plan back to the property owner and say, here's what we're thinking of doing to bring you service, where the landlord has complete veto power and says, I don't want you to do any digging. I don't want you to do any exterior attachments. I don't want you to do anything that makes it look like I have any utilities coming to my building. Find another way to do it. And then reassess. Now that we have a plan, how do we reassess to come up with a new plan that satisfies the property owner? That's as far as we made it so far.
So is Veronica on site here to be able to go do those engineering visits?
She's not an engineer. She's a project manager, so she's not
project
here.
manager.
She's based in South
Okay.
Dakota. We have been working with a Vantage team member named Chris Damaris,
Okay.
who's also leading the engineering for the main part of the project, for the in-person scouting around. You'll see often when you see the Vantage vehicle with the flashing lights, that's him doing the planning for the rest of the build, the yellow, orange, and blue zones. So when he has time in between all that, he does some MDU support. Now we're looking at hiring, or Vantage looking at hiring a special engineer who just works on MDUs for us. We should have someone in place by the end of the month.
And will they do the communication piece too? Because that was some of the problem, is that, sometimes the end customer wasn't dealt with, and we aren't sure whether the landlords, how much communication there was. There was an initial one, but whether the follow-up was really done or not, so.
Yeah, so Veronica is doing the communication with the property owners and the landlords to kind of arrange that conversation with them, engineering and on-site do the tours. We had been relying on Gleeman to do that continual updates to the tenants, say, hey, we're working on it. Here's where we are. We don't really know when it's going to be done. We don't know we're not sure how we're going to get service to your building yet. Like, we should have been pushing updates to them every 30 to 60 days. Like, we're still working on it. That had not been happening. Once they were told, we don't have service for you today, we need to do some work to get there, that may have been the last communication a lot of these tenants received.
So considering we have those tenants and we might know who they are we going to try and rectify that situation?
Yeah, I mean,
Or is it possible to
I'm
do?
working on that now.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. It's not a
Easy.
email all renters of units that are in the green zone where there's engineering required, and like send them a blast email, because there's probably 30 or 40 that have signed up in these areas, but the service is at all different stages of we're really close to we're really like you're down the queue. It might be months before we get there. So it's like going through and identifying all the tenants of units that require engineering support and reaching out to them one at a time. with the information that we have today as far as when we think we'll be able to provide them service. Many of the services that we provide, many of the engineering support needed, once the engineering is done, has a plan, we believe can be done by Clarity Connect. Like they can go in and help out. Sometimes it might be an electrician who does some wiring. That's not Clarity. And other times it might be Syracuse Utilities that has to come in and put in new poles. It's likely that we'll need new poles in some of the mobile home parks or at 2 Cook Street in Freeville. The poles that are there are just really short. So once we have a plan, it's been approved by the landlord, then we have to figure out how we're going to resource to actually get that plan implemented. And do we want to pull off Syracuse Utilities or Clarity from their priority of construction or installations to work on these one-off MDU projects? And that just depends on what their availability is at that point in time. It's a tremendously surprising challenge. Like, I don't think anyone realized like how much these MDUs would require for support.
With the new construction ones, when they go to rent those buildings and stuff or fill them, are we concentrating on trying to get to them so that we can get them as new customers rather than them go somewhere else and then have to switch?
We're trying.
yeah.
We're working closely with the planning department. Ray Berger has some documentation that he sends out, he gives to these new construction companies. Like, if you're going to be building new, you should be prepared for fiber. Like someone told you 30 years ago, be prepared for coax. And 25 years ago, they said, be prepared for Ethernet.
Mm-hmm.
Here's how you can best prepare for fiber. And by the way, this handout is branded Dryden Fiber. So take a look at Dryden Fiber from the beginning as you're building. So that's happening now. We don't have any that are live because of that yet.
Oftentimes when you're doing new construction like that, it's not one of our, like, for example, it's not usually a company like Spectrum's or Dryden Fibers, people that go in and do that work. It's usually the electrical contractors or whatever that are building the building that actually do the physical work.
That's right.
in the buildings.
Right. So yeah, the last, it's like, it's not the last mile or the last yards in some cases. Like, we have to figure out how to get enough service to the building to reach all the
Right.
units. That's really what we have
Right.
to solve. In some cases, because we're providing service to the individual units within the building, we need to know like where in the utility room are we going to attach our devices that will then connect to the ONUs or the Plume devices for individual service.
Right.
The physical wiring from the utility room to the units in an apartment building would be up to the owner of the building and whoever they
Right.
own.
That's right. Yeah.
But the equipment inside the building would likely be ours because we need to have some control over how it goes from the street, from the
Right.
MPT into the building.
Yep.
And yeah, it's
So I
it's-
guess my other question would be, can we look at, is there another contractor that could be hired specifically to work on these MDUs?
on the engineering side.
Well, no, I think we want to keep the engineering consistent, but I'm thinking more about, because you said pulling Syracuse Utilities or Clarity or whoever off of doing construction work.
Well,
is there,
we're also pulling off the Ventive engineer who's working out the, making sure that we have enough light and stuff at our future things too. So got to be careful about not overburdening him.
I would agree, but
Good
yeah,
day.
I would get worried if you started trying to contract out the engineering, because I just don't want to end up with conflicts. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for engineering, I think it makes sense to have Vantage do it because they have the access to the light levels and the fiber in the network. For the work that has to get done, because it's not one size fits all.
Right. Absolutely right.
Clarity does have resources who can drop utility poles that is not Syracuse Utilities. So we could have another company do that task. And really clarity, it's like, it depends on what their volume of other.
Weird.
It would appear my computer is off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Sorry about that. My computer is like, I think I'm done for the day. It's not plugged in. That's
updates.
So regarding the resources behind the work, because each of these is a little different, it would be ideal to get the clarity if they have the availability. They're the ones who are going to actually go back to that apartment building and do the installation later. So if they're familiar with how it got from the network to the building, or how it's configured in the utility room for the apartments, it should be easier for them to actually do the installs as people sign up.
So I guess it comes down to, do we think we need more resources to do this, Dave, or can we handle it?
The gap right now, honestly, is across the board. Like, I'm doing the account management to make sure that the communication between the property owner, the property manager, Vantage, the landlord, and the customer is like moving forward, and just scheduling the meetings where the property owner says, like, come to my place. Well, I'll show you what we have. Like, I can go there, but I'm not the engineer. We have to get the engineer scheduled to go there with the property owner. And sometimes it helps to have Eric or someone from Clarity be there to understand like where the network is that we're going to bring it to this utility room. So now we get a plan. I don't necessarily have to be there, but a consistent engineer and Clarity and the property owner have to be there together to look at this location. Multiply that by 20 different projects.
No, it's a
So it's not like, let's just do it all tomorrow. It's like, this property owner's like, I'm out of town this week or next week. I can only do this week and this time. So getting everyone lined up is just another scheduling logistical challenge. If that was completely outsourced to an account manager, I mean, within our team, then they could say like, I could just like go work on these 20 projects with the property owners and the engineering resource to get these meetings to happen in person.
Would it be better to hire somebody to do that rather than do sales?
It's really a both
Or-
thing. I mean, it would be nice if it was
Okay.
one single person who could do both of these tasks, but it's just different skill sets and they have to be a bit more organized. As you've seen, there's so many of these MDUs. And a little bit more relational, perhaps, than the transactional door-to-door salesperson. But they'll work together, because if a salesperson does sign a apartment building tenant, they're gonna want that tenant to have service so they can get paid the commission.
Yeah.
So good questions on MDUs. I have a meeting with Veronica today at 12:30, so I'll talk to her about where we're at and how she thinks resources are looking for engineering, and then ask her if we feel like we need to get even more.
Yeah.
Anything else?
We want to hear when that construction's moving, Dave.
Today at 3:30, there is a meeting with Syracuse Utilities and Vantage for the next round of kickoff. It could be starting underground work as early as next week. Mark, do you have anything else?
Yeah, no, Dave, I just wanted to let people know that you spoke to the town board this week about expansion in Caroline and financial planning. That was an excellent discussion, very thorough preparation, and was helpful for the board. And then I wanted to mention, you mentioned the gap between signups and what we need to do next year in order to, in order to utilize our grant. And we spoke about this, and I think we have like 92 signups in Caroline, but if we communicate with people, which we're planning to do, we discussed this, that I can imagine a lot of people saying, well, I'll wait till they say it's on board and then I'll sign up. But if we let people know that they will be actually helping us and their neighbors if they sign up early for our rollout of construction, I think we'll get a lot of buy-in, and that may help us get the signups we need to move it forward in an efficient manner. So just wanted to offer that.
That's good. We can draft a message and then you and I can work together on what that looks like.
Great.
Good. And I know Graham asked for this. Maybe at the next Public Broadband Committee meeting, we do a financial deep dive into how it's all laid out.
Nice.
Cool. So that would be Friday, November 21st. Yeah. Our next board meeting, our next Public Broadband Committee meeting will be on Friday, November 7th. That will be a look back at the month of October, things that we did, installs and business revenue, sales. And then 2 weeks after that, on Friday, November 21st, we will look at do a deep dive on finance. Cool.
And
Everyone.
Dave, can we add the Calix, AdTran, or whatever decision, or whatever we're looking at there?
Yeah.
If we could, it'd be
if we
nice
could
to
do
have
it-
a little bit of input before we make a final decision, although really it's going to be up to the engineers, I think. So
Hopefully we'll have something to share. We can discuss that in 2 weeks.
yeah, or send a note out to us all just so we have an idea. So that works great. I really appreciate your extra notes coming out to us. That's helpful. So
Cool. All right. Thanks, Graham.
yep, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Yep, take care. Bye bye.
Great. Thanks, everybody.